Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Capril. Okay, I'd like to be honest with you. I've done this before. Today's cup, purely a prop. There's actually 3 guitar picks inside of here. I had a cup with coffee, and Beth just took it away. She asked me if I was done with it, and I wasn't paying attention. And I said, "Yeah, I'm done with it." And I had to grab one. Anyway, I want to talk to you a little bit about philosophy, and this is something I talk about often, but I think it's been a while. And I think it's an important message to hear. There are certain things that are worth hearing a lot. There's that old expression, it's better to read 100 books 10 times than it is to read 1,000 books once. And this is going to be one of those that comes up. Last year, earlier this year, we acquired a practice. So a number of you are new to me. And so I think it's important that you hear it, as well as those of you who've been with me a long time. So this is the philosophy of how markets work, or at least how I believe they work, and why we invest the way that we do. Okay. So I've used this equation before. You may remember. I believe it's referred to as the transitive properties of inequalities. And it basically says if A is greater than B and B is greater than C, then A, by default, is greater than C. So you probably remember that from algebra. And in the world of investing, there's a similar one. And it is that news is unpredictable. Markets react to news. Therefore, markets are unpredictable, right? And this is something that I think we all accept, but we don't like it. And so when we go through periods where we're getting flat returns or negative returns, there's this natural feeling that we get that says, I should be doing something differently. And in reality, the answer probably is no. Unless your goals have changed, the time that you would need your money, that no. Just because you're not getting the return that you want in the short run is not a reason to abandon things in the long run. Every client that we work with has a range of expected returns. If you don't know what your range is, you should reach out to me. But that range of returns is what I rely upon when I develop your financial plan. It's what I rely upon when I tell you if I think you are doing fine or you're not doing fine. Because I know that the reality is I won't know what your rate of return is going to be year to year. The best that I can do is give you a portfolio that will give you the range that you need with the least amount of variance possible. And that's still not guaranteed, because we will have moments where that range of expectation, which might be 95% of the time, is still not going to be 100% of the time. But we need to understand that no one is going to know in advance what markets are going to do before they do them. If I could do that, I would give you your range of return with zero variance. Actually, there'd be some, but it would almost always be upward or flat. Can't do that. I mean, I could put you in a situation where you only got positive rate of returns, but they'd be relatively small. And the whole idea about being an equity investor is to be rewarded for taking on some risk. So the portfolio that you're in is incredibly diversified. In fact, some people might even argue it's too diversified. Well, you can't really be too diversified if you're intelligently diversified, which means you have different asset classes that tend to perform differently at different times. I often use the example of baseball standings. I talk about the fact that every year is a new year. And while most of the time a team like the Yankees are in first place, every once in a while someone pops up like our Cincinnati Reds, who suddenly find themselves to be in first place. But that's probably not going to be the norm, unfortunately, because the Reds ownership doesn't spend money like the Yankees ownership does. And yet, there are times even when a high payroll team like the Mets do poorly, but probably more than not, they'll do well. And it's the same thing with investing. What we're trying to do is capture all the teams so that where there is a first place team, we get it. But what we have to accept when we are diversified is we're not going to be hitting home runs. What we're trying to do is to develop some level of consistency, which in the short run is incredibly boring. I get it. in the long run, it's usually what allows me, in fact, it is what allows me to advise any client as to how much money they should be able to withdraw and not have a strong chance of running out of money in their lifetime. So in a nutshell, we can't predict the future. We're not going to try. Every bit of news that we get has already been factored into the price. It's what we don't know that's going to move markets. What we have to do is fight the urge to make changes based on the short-term results, because in the long run, that's going to probably hurt us. In fact, I've often said you will not be hurt by being in the market when it goes down, or at least you shouldn't be, because over time it tends to recover. But if you're out of the market when it goes up, you've missed that opportunity. So we need to maintain that discipline going forward. A good financial advisor is not about trying to give you the next hot investment, because he or she doesn't know what that is. A good financial advisor is one who will coach you through the difficult times and help you to stay the course. So if you've heard this presentation, this spiel before, here's another time. It's a good message worth conveying. If you haven't, I hope you find some insight. And if you have questions or concerns based on it, please reach out to me. I want to talk to you about it. All right. Have a great week. Talk soon. Bye-bye.